Hi, I'm Nina Bosky, and welcome to LifeBites, where each and every week we'll get you inspired in the areas of life, business, and media. We'll help you dare, dream, do, and be so you can get out of your head into your soul in order to tune in and take a bite. This week, we're getting you life inspired. Hi, everybody. My name is Nina Bosky, and welcome to Life Bites, Life Inspired. Do we have a special treat for you today? Dr. Cari Schaefer is in the house, and she is a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. She is also the founder of Wise Woman Emerging. It's a platform for women who are going through menopause and really help them transform maybe their beliefs and have some support, particularly with the cultural shifts that are happening. And sometimes we get left out of the equation as we get older. Well, we're not going to be just talking about women today. We're going to be talking about men and women and sex. What happens to the libido after 50? Now, if you're having a good old time rocking it out and having some good old sex after 50, this podcast might not be for you. But if you're finding that your body's changing, your libido's not as strong, this might be a podcast that you want to pay attention to. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Dr. Cari to the show. Welcome, Cari. All right. So we got Dr. Cari in the house.
Yay.
Welcome.
So happy to be here.
Well, it's a lot of fun. And this is a fun topic because we're talking about sex. Yes, not always such an easy topic to talk about, especially in the Western cultures. I don't think we talk about it freely. It's something that we kind of just hide in the background, and yet we all do and have and hopefully enjoy. Right. So what caught me is that, you and I know each other, but you were talking about this in your own practice around the libido and what happens when we get to be 50 plus, 55 plus, and our libido starts to wane. So I'd like to start with the females first, and then let's move to the male and their sex drive as well.
Right. Let's start by saying not every person's libido wanes. So that's
that's really,
there are women who actually get more of a libido in this third phase of life.
Who are those women?
Right. I know. Well, I've talked to some of them, and what happens for them is it's such a relief that they're not going to create children, that it creates this whole new feeling of sexual freedom for them.
Wow. Now, is this the women mainly that have already had children that are feeling
that? Some people that never wanted children, some that already had children, but that just like that comes off the plate, and now there's this new form of sexual freedom. So it isn't, it isn't just it isn't just, I've had 84-year-olds reach out to me who were in a new relationship, and,
I love it. See, I think that's really fun because, at 84, 85 years old, I would love to still be thinking and vibrant about sex and really playing full out.
Right.
My mom, just as a little quick side note, my mom, when she was in assisted living, I was so shocked because the assisted living, it reminded me of when you're in college in the dorms, right? And they had this one guy that went around, and he was just, he was this,
hitting on
a little pat on the butts, and he was having a field day because mainly there was a lot more women than there were men by the time they got to be 85, 90 years old. And they were having a challenge because the STDs were.
I was going to tell you, there is a huge STD problem in the more mature people. Absolutely. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily, and what you'll find it often in women is there's a lull. So and then it'll come back, because I want to start by sort of orienting ourselves around the biological aspect of libido, right? And so there's many things that affect libido. But one of the things that affects libido during our fertility years, there's a biological drive to procreate. Even if we're not choosing to procreate, there's still that biological drive. And that biological drive gives that hunger, sort of this heat and this like, I want. And, I look back on my past life. And when I was in my fertility years, I rarely even thought it was, I rarely asked somebody like, hey, what are you into? And what do you like? And what are your beliefs? And to see whether like, we met up, it was like, we liked each other. There was chemistry. And the next thing I know, I'm in a relationship. And I remember I was like in my 40s when this was starting to change. And I woke up one day and I was like, I remember what it was. I thought I might be pregnant. I was like, oh my God, I don't even like this person, let alone I like, no, like, so it started to wake up to the fact that like, oh, liking somebody that you're in a relationship with or having things in common would be a good idea. But when I was younger, it was all just driven by that sort of animalistic, chemistry piece, right?
Is he cute? Do we get along in the terms of, is that compatibility there?
Exactly.
And then you would choose a relationship based on that value system versus all the other things that we
versus yeah, exactly. Like,
I remember saying
to relation to money and how's your, what all that kind of stuff.
I remember saying to my girlfriends in my 20s, early 30s, right? Is he cute? Right. It was all about, is he cute? Like, how is it? You know what I mean? That kind of feeling versus what qualities does he really bring to the deeper side of everybody as we get older, we look for different things. Right.
Right. And so one of the things that happens for women is that starts to wane. Now for men, because their hormones start to shift, because our role literally is shifting. The misunderstanding about menopause is that it's like some like, defunct thing that's happening to us. But the truth is every month for us to get ready to be a good host for a baby, we take a bunch of resources and we put it towards that. And it's a drain on our system every month. Drain, right? That's why we tend more towards anemia. And that's why we tend, we have people know like, oh, I'm on my cycle and their energy goes down. It's a drain on our system. We are no longer going to be the ones whose job it is to make a baby. And so because of that, we don't need to be losing our resources every month. And so that stopped, which is a beautiful thing. Like that's
an interesting way of looking at it. I never looked at it from that
perspective. Well, in Chinese medicine, this is kind of the information they give us. So I always imagine like you think about a little girl and then a woman, and then you think of, and you kind of see then the next phase is like this slumped over, like, no, there's the little girl, the woman, and then the next phase, there's so many resources that we get back, right? Wow. And one of those resources is we don't need to please anymore. So we're biologically driven during the fertility years to please our mate, to take care of others. Like literally that's our job. And all of a sudden we don't have to do it anymore. So one of the things that changes, and I talk about this a lot, is this sacred no we get back, right? And one of the areas that no comes back is in and around whether we want to have sex.
Wow. That's really cool. What's really interesting is as I talk to my girlfriends, so, some of them I've known since first grade. And so I've seen their cycle of from their early 20s all the way, into nowadays, and that level of kind of like, oh, no, don't want to go there anymore. Whereas in our 20s and maybe even early 30s, you would jump in and then 6 months later go, what in the world am I into right now?
Right. And also we would also, what were our conversations in our 20s and 30s? It was all about the guys, like
Sex in the City
and where and what.
Sex in the City in our generation was huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, exactly. It was all about that. And now it's like, yes, we want to have, maybe we want to have relationships. I see a lot of women who actually decide that they don't want to be in relationships anymore. They're pretty contented on their own. But what starts to shift from a libido perspective is the driving force. So what I have found that I see a lot in women is the driving force becomes about connection.
Oh, that is so I love what you're saying, because that actually is shifting. I don't have that same drive that I had before. So you also, if you don't shift that in your head about connection, then you could almost, you're still trying to operate from an old operating system that isn't working, I would imagine.
Exactly. Right. And so we're like, oh, I don't have any, juice, any fire, but we're used to kind of this, I hate to say it, sort of, lower chakra, like, oh, and this phase of life moves up into the higher chakras, into the heart chakras, and it's about being met in a deeper way. And so that if you're in a committed relationship that has been going through, that can be a real shift. And truthfully, if you've been in a relationship for a long time, usually by this point, the sex is kind of going like,
We don't have that high that you do in the first 3 months.
It needs a shift. It's like looking for something. And so when my husband and I went through this, because there is a downtick in that libido. And so we went through this. I was like, and then I started realizing that I really wanted to connect with him. Right. Yeah. And so first, when my body was a no, because I'm very big on with women, like you never say yes when you're a no. Yeah. Right. But you might want to do some work to get yourself to be a yes. Right. If you're in a relationship, whatever kind of relationship.
Yes.
Right. You might want to work to get yourself to be a yes, but never say yes when you're a no. But so what I do initially with my husband is I would love on him. And we'll talk a little bit about a tool that really helped us, but he's in this one system of evaluation, he's what's called a central. So he loves to be stroked and touched and, and so I would love on him. And a lot of times that in and of itself would get my libido going. But if it didn't, it still provided us a closeness.
Yes.
Right.
I think what you're saying is so important because I even know for myself, I think this is what kind of triggered this is my girlfriends and I were talking about it. We're saying, wow, this is really changing. And not only that, but our men are changing, right? Because some of them have been married for, 20, 30 years. So they might have met in their 20s and they're still now married. So let's get to the specifics of, because I love that tip about if the key here is connection, and let's say whether I'm a male or a female wanting that connection, is to not wait for it. And one thing that I think has shifted for me, as women get older, we're shifting in terms of age and beauty. We have to find our beauty from within. We're not at 20 years old going.
So one of the things I really want women to understand is that during the fertility years, it's our job to attract. Our job is to, like, from a biological perspective, right? Our job is to attract a mate so that we procreate. That's our job during the fertility years. Whether we decide to or not, that's free will, but that's our biological job. So there is an attractability to us as women that changes when we move into the menopausal years, but that's not because it's not because we've put on those 5 pounds, or it's not because we have a little more wrinkle. It has nothing to do with any of that. I have met so many women who come in to see me. Nothing has changed about them physically. And they're like, Cari, I go into a bar and nobody looks, right? And I remember experiencing that myself. I was like, nobody's noticing, and you feel like something's wrong. I blamed it on wrinkles, people blame it on weight, women blame it on stuff. But the truth is that's exactly as it should be. It's not our job anymore. It doesn't mean you can't attract somebody, but it's that difference. It's not that animalistic attract anymore, right? And so you won't walk into a room maybe and get as much attention, but it has nothing to do with anything changing physiologically. I would bet, and I don't know this for sure, but I would bet we produce some different pheromone or something, I
think you're right. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Yes.
Although I do have to say, when I was doing a television show and I had somebody on that was she wasn't my co-host, but she was on the show with me. So we did a lot of photos together.
Right.
And I looked to my side and I said, oh my gosh, I could actually be her mother. Right. I was first realization I'm getting older. Right.
Right.
And it was really interesting because when the men came in, they looked at her, and it was the first time that I realized, wow, I'm getting older. It's not, that kind of that changing of the guards. And I think that, that'll be another show, but let me tell you, that's a really great topic to talk about for women as we get older, where we can find our purpose, our own drive, but it's different than animalistic, which is what you're talking about.
Right. And so it's a rather, you even said it is, I'm getting older. No, you're maturing and you're graduating out of that role.
Yes.
Right. And
I
so
like the
you're
reframe. I
not,
love it.
you're not supposed to be the one in the room who the men are gravitating to in the same way. The strange men, the stranger, not strange men, but you know what I mean? The
stranger men that just,
yeah, it's not supposed to be that way. So it's actually as it should be. And so I really want women to hear that so they don't start thinking like there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, that's
right?
good. That's good.
Because there isn't something wrong with them and you haven't like suddenly gotten, old and undesirable. It's just that biological change is happening, right?
So I want to get to, because you gave a really great tip for, like I have a friend who is dealing with both of their libidos in a partnership that is
we can
changing.
talk men.
Okay?
We have to talk men, right?
Okay, but I want to talk about females in regards to if their libido is waning and yet they still have the desire, the vision to want to have sex, but the drive has shifted.
Yeah.
What do you suggest for them to kind of rev up their libido? Let's start with females first.
Well, one of the things that squelches females' libidos across the board is stress. So during the fertility years, our sex hormones that were being made in the ovaries are now being made in conjunction with or by the adrenals, and testosterone now is being made by the adrenals. So if we're stressed out, the production of testosterone goes down. And so one of the things is to really, like my husband and I, we would go away. Like I get more zhuzh when I'm not at home. So we would go away. We'd go to
me too. I do
right?
too. Well, hot places. I like to be in the heat. You know what I mean?
Like dopamine levels, exactly. Dopamine levels go up. I like to go to hot springs. That hot water really softens me. So it's really about making choices that really soften you and get away from the stress and really let that unwind. And that makes a big difference for women during this time. Some women do have low hormone levels, and it's not that you run out and have to get hormones, but knowing that can help know the right strategies. So getting your hormones checked during this time is always a good idea if you're having symptoms. But the thing to understand is that low testosterone is the result of usually it's and if you say you have low testosterone but you also have low estrogen, if you take testosterone, it's just going to get made into estrogen, so it won't solve that problem. So you have to look globally for the hormones to see really what's going on. But stress is a number one. Getting enough sleep is a big stressor. But the other piece that really helped me was I did this little quiz by this woman. She called herself Miss Jaya. You could do it online. It was free at the time. Now it's $15.
What is it?
Miss Jaya, Jaya.
Okay,
and it's this little quiz that I recommend all couples do. And even if you're not in a coupledom, that you do it on your own. And what it is you answer questions and you find out that she's sort of identified that there's these different types of people who get turned on by different things. And like I am what's called an energetic. So energetics are not going to want to do Humpty Dumpty. My husband has to think about sending energy to me and I go, whoo. But if somebody's coming at me with that energy, it's like a killjoy for me, right? I am not a sensual, so that soft, strokey top drives me kooky batty. You want to turn me off, stroke that, right? But my husband loves that. And so learning about sort of your type and what turns you on helps you now, because you can't just default to that heat energy from during the fertility years, right? Mm-hmm. So it helps you, learn what turns you on. And then you both can kind of start to work with that. Jaya will tell a story. Now, we knew them personally, and her partner at the time, I don't know if they're still together, he is this really virile guy. And they tell a story about how he went completely poof, limp. Yeah. And it was because she's a sexual. and he's I can't remember, he's an energetic, I think. And so she's coming at him with sexual energy, and it completely shut him down. And that's where she figured this out, and she
Wow.
learned, and then they were able to like reactivate their, yeah. And when we're younger, like I said, it doesn't matter as much. I mean, it would be great if we all knew it when we were younger, because we'd have, you know, better sex, but because our needs would be able to be met. But when we understand, but now it's like essential, right? And so knowing what your type is and what turns you on and what you like, then you and your partner can learn. And that's what I said about my husband being a sensual. And so I can pleasure him by, you know,
touching him. And isn't that interesting? And I think this is really important what you're saying, because for people that have partners that are not, you know, you like different things, right? And understanding that is really important. So for you, if he came at you with his desire and need, which is touch, 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 you're going to go, oh my God, that's not
stop touching me. I feel pulled on. Like I feel like, you know.
And I even know for myself, when I hear this from people, even my own self, of I've done this where I've projected what I need onto the other person. And you've really got to take a kind of an honest look at your sex life and ask yourself and ask your partner and have those kind of conversations. So this website is MISS Jaya.
You know, if you just Google
it.
Jaya,
okay. I think this would be really good.
Jaya, Jaya, I believe, Jaya sex quiz. It'll come up. It's got pretty good SEO. And it was a game changer for us, like total game changer, because we stopped making each other wrong. Like I had a relationship, a 10-year relationship that ended. A lot to do. There were other things, but a lot to do around this issue. And now that I know this, I see that he was a sexual. And so he's coming at me with sexual energy, and I'm an energetic, right? And we were like doing this, and he was thinking I was this, and I was, you know.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think also the longer that you are with each other, especially when you're at that high,
right?
Everybody's wanting to sustain it from that new place.
Right.
And it won't sustain it. So you have to have more of these real conversations. So I think that's key, is understanding who each other is in terms of the sexual kind of orientation of what they like. But let's talk a little bit about, because you mentioned hormones, and I know that you're, you know, sometimes yes, sometimes no with hormones. How would somebody know if they should be on hormones or not? In terms of
for me, libido. And I do want to make sure we get to the men, because but for me, the managing hormone replacement can be tricky. Not for every woman, but for some women it can be tricky. There's a lot of factors, and it's expensive. Nobody should be on synthetic hormones, as far as I'm concerned. They just shouldn't be used. Bioidentical.
And why is that? Why is that?
Because, gosh, just read the side effects. I mean, that's the stuff that makes you more predisposed to the dangerous stuff. Like you read the side effects of progestin. It's like, it's just, we have bioidentical. There's no reason so that a drug company can make money that we need to be on synthetic hormones. That's the reason. What they do is they slightly change them so they can patent them. Well, the problem is you slightly change a hormone, you take estrogen, you slightly change it. Guess what you've got? Testosterone. Like, so a slight change in a hormone makes a huge, huge difference. So we don't want to be messing around with that, right? And the Premarin comes from horses, and our hormones are like, we take tiny, tiny amounts, and then you know, horses are like, you know, they're big animals. Like it's a lot. It's just more than we need, and all that kind of stuff. So, but if a woman's body, if she's been relatively healthy most of her life, and yet now she's off and there's a little bumpy whatever, you probably can do it without hormone replacement. The people who need hormone replacement, and this was true for me, of people who have had a lot of health challenges, who've been on a health journey, and their hormones are overall low, because low estrogen and low hormones really causes stress to the body. It increases inflammation, it causes brain degeneration, it causes bone loss, it predisposes for heart disease. And so, but when your overall system's under stress, getting you out of stress and getting the hormones back online is very hard without a little bit of support, right?
Got it.
And so my goal is to get people's bodies healthy and well on their own. And if we just can't do that without getting them out of the toilet, so to say, so to speak, a little bit of hormone replacement. But I'm like a little bit, like I want you, just in that above menopausal, not above the high range, but in that mid range of menopausal range for estrogen. I don't want you like back what you were when you were 22. And there's a lot of people that do hormone replacement like that. And to me, that just goes against nature. Like part of estradiol becomes less dominant during our fertility years, and estrone becomes more dominant. I fundamentally think that they're different hormones and they have different psyches to them and different energetics to them. And so I don't want to be having women stay in their fertility years. I don't want women to stay bleeding because they're unnecessarily losing their resources, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my goal. My goal is use it as little as possible. And when it's needed, right?
Yeah. So that's the hormone component. And I would say that, you're either going to somebody like yourself or you're going to your doctor to really be able to see which pathway is right for you if you're looking at that. But one area before we get to the men that I do want to talk about is there's, and this also would apply to men too.
Right.
Sex is healthy. So if you want to be vibrant and be in a health, body state of mind and body and soul, it's that kind of feeling of use it or lose it, so to speak. So
so literally, if women do not use their vaginas, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
It atrophies.
Yes.
It atrophies, ladies. You got to keep using it, whether you are alone or, whatever, you got to keep using it because it literally atrophies. And then when you want to start to use it again, it's like, right. And so, yes, it's very important that we keep energy flowing into that area. We keep that area vital and we keep, because otherwise, literally, it will shrivel up.
Okay. So for example, then I think it's tied to estrogen, your ability to be moist in that area. So I heard a friend of mine, she said, Nina, I got a ring inserted and it's got just a little, of estrogen that keeps me moist in that area. Or there's creams and stuff. Would you recommend that? And if somebody doesn't want to do hormones, what would you recommend to keep that area, moist and alive and
so for me,
shriveled up prune?
Right. So for me, I used coconut oil, unrefined, cold pressed coconut oil. It's great lubricant. If you're in a committed relationship, most men like it because it has a great feel. If you're in a heterosexual relationship, and that can really, and it's an omega-3, which helps nourish that tissue in that area. So coconut oil is what I always use for a lubricant. I highly recommend using a lubricant at this time.
Okay.
If you're using condoms, you can't use the oil base. You're going to have to go to like an aloe vera or a glycerin lubricant.
And why is that? Why is that?
Because the oils eat the.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Who knew, right? Who knew?
Well, accident. It's going to go, you're going to be like, what happened? Yeah. So you can't use oils. But that super helps. So, and then the other thing is depending on what's going on with women, some women really are helped by a little DHEA suppository, particularly if you're having like incontinence issues. A little DHEA suppository can be really helpful for that region to help keep it vital alive. DHEA is the precursor to just testosterone, maybe a little bit to estrogen, but definitely testosterone. And then there are suppositories you can get that have a little estriol rather than estradiol, because estradiol is the hormone that that we're going to have a problem from using hormones, it's going to come from estradiol. So in that area, I prefer to kind of keep estradiol out of it. And estriol has the same effect with the moistening, actually better effect with the moistening of the tissues. And it also is bone protective too. And so a little estriol, and there are over-the-counter things, Bezwecken sells them that have a little DHA and a little estriol in them. And then, a doctor who does bioidentical hormones can certainly
can help you with that area. Okay.
Can help you with that.
So let's switch to men.
Okay.
This area. It's one that's not talked about as much. And I'm so glad glad that we're actually bringing this forward for the men that are looking at, oh my gosh, here I am,
What's going
50
on?
plus.
Yeah.
I used to have such a big sex drive. I don't have it anymore. And I'm actually afraid to be put in that situation where I have to use it because I don't know if I can.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And that happens a lot. You'll meet a lot of women where they're actually the ones that are desiring and the partner isn't. So so the first thing to understand is women go through a hormone shift. So estradiol was dominant in the fertility years, and now estrone is more dominant in the in the menopausal years. Men don't make that shift. It's testosterone, right? It's testosterone. What can happen for men is when men are under stress or there's inflammation in their system, they start converting their testosterone, and they can convert their testosterone into two things. One is estrogen. So if a man is converting his testosterone to estrogen, he gets boobs, he gets soft boobs, and it starts with just the nipples elongating a little bit. So men, if you're noticing that, you might be converting. And then DHT, dihydrotestosterone, both of those predispose men to developing, serious health issues like, prostate problems and things like that. So what we want to make sure is not just does a man have enough testosterone. If a man's testosterone is lower, then we've got to check and see, is it because he's converting it to DHT and or estrogen? And if it is, you've got to address that before you ever think about giving them testosterone, because you give them testosterone, what will happen is initially they'll feel better, and then they'll just go into the toilet and they'll feel terrible because it's just driving that conversion. More estrogen is being produced or more DHT is being produced, right?
So will they get bigger? I mean, does that mean that their boobs how will they know if they're doing that? Is there a test that you take?
So yes, there's a test. There's a salivary hormone test for men that can tell, but also the man, you start getting fleshy. You start turning into the, I'm looking for a clicker, but the couch potato clicker, you're like,
yeah.
You lose your drive. You don't want to do stuff anymore. And very often men have the tendency to blame this on their mate.
Oh, wow. Okay. And why is that? Is it because because I remember dating one guy, I'm in a relationship now, but pre-relationship, and he certainly had an issue in that area, and he didn't blame it on me, but he did not want to, he was not going to the doctor. I am not addressing this. I will live with this issue versus confront it. So how do you deal with that?
Why do they blame it on mates? Sometimes that's because, John Gray did a study that men are from Mars, women are from Venus, that literally showed when a woman nags a man, that he starts to convert his testosterone into estrogen. And so all these years of us wanting our men to talk to us and get into their feeling body, it's actually, talking is fine, but getting too feely is not actually healthy for a man's testosterone. I'm sorry, ladies.
Hey, I got a Viking man, so instead of me saying, hey, we need to connect, I should say, yes, be in that Viking mode.
Yeah, and you can still have a conversation, and they can still go into their heart, and they can do all of that. But women for many years were like trying to get their men to meet them like their girlfriends do, and it's actually not. When a man is stressed out, it's actually, for his testosterone, it's better if he goes and does something, goes and build something or sweeps. And I know this is stereotypical, but literally they've shown in research for the testosterone levels, it's actually true, rather than sitting down and talking about it. They can maybe talk about it later, but first they got to move that energy.
Move it out. So testosterone, if you want to increase that, is actually going and being what we would stereotypically call manly, right? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yes. Going and like doing like, oof. And it's, again, it's just because we don't want to, it's called aromatization. So when a man is stressed out, he starts aromatizing his testosterone into estrogen or into DHT, and that's not good. And then if women, we end up with these guys that aren't, you got your Viking. I'm so glad, so we want to encourage them to keep moving and keep, exercise is super important for a man during this phase of life. And keeping that belly weight off is super important so that we don't aromatize our testosterone into estrogen and dihydrotestosterone.
So if I hear you correctly, what you're basically saying is if men are starting to see their nipples get a little elongated, or they're starting to get boobs in that area, right?
Yeah.
that means that their testosterone is being converted into estrogen. Is that what
Most
you're
likely,
most
most
likely?
likely
Okay.
that's me. Uh-huh.
So here's I'm gonna
And
give
so
it
one thing that a man can do is A, look at stress levels, but
okay.
B, get the xenoestrogens out of his life, because that can be a cause of it too. And
And how would you do
xenoestrogen,
that? You go see somebody like yourself or a
no,
hormone doctor?
stop using plastic water bottles, stop using chemicals, stop exposing yourself to chemicals. Chemicals are xenoestrogens. They break in the body. That's how they act.
Okay.
Men who work in plastic factories have really high incidence of breast cancer, have really high incidence of moobs, because all that plastic is acting like
Did you
estrogen.
call them moobs?
Moobs, male boobs,
I
moobs.
love it. Moobs
Yeah,
instead of boobs.
yeah. And I see so often, I see men and they're walking down the street and they're kind of like moo, moo, and they've got the moves, and I'm just like, oh God, I even see young boys, and my heart just breaks, because I know they just have too much estrogen in their body for what's a normal healthy balance. And so you want to get out the exposure to the things that turn into estrogens in the body.
All right. So let's take it another layer through this. Okay. So somebody is either diabetic or a prostate in that area. Those are two areas that I've seen that can make the male, penis not be able to perform.
Okay, so there's another thing that leads. So that's the testosterone issue. And testosterone is about the libido, it's about the desire too, it's about all of that. The other piece that is super important is blood circulation. So that's the diabetes piece. So you can have, if you get an erection but it doesn't stay up, if you premature ejaculate, it may be a circulation issue more than anything. And that's where the exercise makes the big difference, right? So you've got to get the blood in there,
Yeah.
and that, so really looking at things that improve circulation are essential. And when you think about it, if you're doing that, then your heart is not getting the good circulation, your limbs aren't getting the good circulation, your brain isn't getting good circulation. So an inability to get and maintain an erection that is due to blood circulation is not good for overall health. So not something you want to ignore. And for men, there are pills that people can take, and they do come with side effects. Sometimes I have seen with men, while you're fixing whatever the issue is, the blood, the circulation,
Mhm.
whatever, to use a little like something like Cialis or something that just reminds them emotionally who they are, because there's a huge psychological piece for men when they lose their erection.
Yeah.
They really start to feel less than, they get embarrassed and all that. So using a little bit of like a Cialis, I prefer that over Viagra, just so they
And why
remember.
is that? Is there a reason why? So just people that may be using Viagra go, oh, I'll try that. Is
I just
there a
find that
reason?
it's more well tolerated. There's
Okay.
certain aspects of Viagra that make me a little uncomfortable,
Okay.
but some people, Viagra works and Cialis doesn't, and vice versa.
And you
So
said a little bit. What do you mean by a little
I
bit?
mean, like once in a while, like it's a treat you do with,
Okay.
whatever. It's not like every day you're taking the stuff. They have side effects, but it's just so that you can remember who you are,
Okay.
because there's can be a big impact on men. There are men literally that have trouble once and then they have
That's it.
trouble, and it's not physiological. It's a psycho, emotional, and mental. So that there's a big piece with men around that. So remembering who you are, remembering that it's capable, that you can, and then doing the stuff to fix it. Because like I said, if it's a blood circulation issue, that's affecting your brain and everywhere, and taking a pill isn't solving that. So you want to get that solved.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So another thing with men, so there is that so there's a psychological component for women, which is that stress cycle that gets in the way of the hormones. And for men, there's a psychological component as well. If a man isn't feeling like he's thriving in his life, if he's feeling like his job maybe is going down, he may go through a phase where he starts doing that aromatizing, and then not having as good of an erection. So the erection is really a sign of sort of a bigger issue for men. So the idea of ignoring it because you're embarrassed to talk about it can have bigger health implications. So it's super important that men talk to somebody about it and get some support. There are natural things you can do. There are people that can support you with this, and you don't just the other thing I remembered, the other thing with men that I was going to say, but that you don't have to just suffer through it, And then the other thing for men to know is that cholesterol medication, your precursor to testosterone, is cholesterol. And if you lower your cholesterol super low and your body still has a need for cholesterol because say you have inflammation in your system or you're under high stress, it may affect your testosterone levels as well. Mm-hmm. So it's literally like cholesterol medication, and then the prescription for Viagra is coming next. And, that's hard on the body. So let's look at why you've got the higher cholesterol, why the body's under stress, why you're under stress, see if we can handle that. And then get your cholesterol levels down to a level so that you naturally, so you don't have to take the pill, which then is going to affect your libido.
So what I hear you saying is taking a pill is treating the symptom and not the cause. So what you're saying is you can do both, but the reality is that you have to get to the underroot cause of what's going on, because if you don't get to that, taking a pill, it might even make the situation worse long term.
Yes, it might. So you take one medication, then it leads to another medication, leads to another. Now look at, if you have blood pressure that's 200, while you're figuring out why, you might take a blood pressure medication so you don't have a stroke or something,
Yeah.
But we're looking at ultimately getting to where you're healthy and balanced without all the medications, because every medication has a side effect, right? It has something that goes with it. When you start getting into 3 and 5 medications, you're getting more and more guaranteed of an adverse drug reaction in your system, right? And so it kind of becomes this vicious spiral down if we just figured out why you're converting your testosterone, or why your testosterone is low, or, then we can really start to change the whole picture.
So 2 last questions. Okay.
Yes.
You're listening or watching this podcast right now, and you're saying, I can identify as either a female that's going through these issues or a male that's going through these issues. If you are, whether you're in a relationship or not, looking at these underlying causes are really key. But let's say you're in a relationship and you are wanting that connection and you're wanting to solve it. This isn't something that you're going to be able to take a pill tomorrow and then all of a sudden just be, oh yeah, we're ready to go. So it's a process. What advice would you give to women who want to connect with their partner? And then I'd like you to say, what would you say to a man that's wanting to connect with their partner?
Women who want to connect with their partner, the first thing to do is look around your life and see how stressed out you are, and then take steps to decrease that stress. 2 of the factors that I find cause stress in women that women don't realize is erratic blood sugar. So every time your blood sugar drops, in other words, you've skipped a meal, you release stress hormones. And then, so your stress hormone system's getting co-opted into managing blood sugar instead of producing the hormones. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number 1, is really look at the stress. And then if you are having other symptoms of perimenopause other than just the libido, I really, really, really just get the hormones looked at. Let's just see where you're at. If you're just like I said, if you're just at the bottom of the barrel zero, then you might need some help to get out of the bottom of the barrel zero. And then I'm going to give a third. And that third is, try taking your heart and the love that you have for your mate and loving on them, and make an agreement with your mate that you may not want to. A lot of women stop being affectionate with their mates because every time they do, the mate's like, okay, that means we're gonna have sex, right? And so make an agreement with your mate that for now, while I'm going through this and figuring this out, don't let's let me be the initiator. And if I'm loving on you, don't take that to mean that I want to have sex right in that moment. I just want to give you love and make you feel good, right? And so you talk about Now, with the man, if you are noticing the symptoms I'm talking about, I really think you want to find somebody who maybe a naturopathic doctor, somebody like me, who will run that lab on you. And again, it's a salivary male hormone lab. You get that run and you find out whether or not you're converting, because there's so many health implications to your body if you are. Yeah.
All
And
right.
so getting that done really, and then get yourself exercising as well, and decrease your stress level, because behind all of it is stress. All of it is stress.
And if you can go on that couple vacation, because I was thinking about that. I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I've got to do that as well. So one of the things that I would say too is that you mentioned is go take the Jaya sex test. So Google that and go ahead and do that.
Yes,
So
definitely.
if they want to get a hold of you, Dr. Cari Schaefer, how is the best way? What's the website to get a hold of you that you think?
So my website is Cari, Cari, the number 4 health.com. And you'll see my my phone number there, and you can contact my office staff and ask questions. You can even schedule a free 15-minute consult with me where we can drop in and see what's going on with you and what recommendations I might have.
I love it. And you're such a wealth of information. And I love your holistic integrated approach. So it's not just one way or the other. It's about being integrated and understanding the different stages of life. So thank you today for sharing with us about the libido and sex, because, hey, we're all just getting started, especially as we get older. So
exactly.
Thanks again, Dr. Cari Schaefer, for being with us today. And if you want to get a hold of her, you can see it right here on the screen. And thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Nina.
All right. I'm Nina Bosky for LifeBites, Life Inspired. Remember, until next time, take a bite out of life before life takes a bite out of you.